No one likes war, but it is a reality. Protecting borders, protecting freedoms, protecting the oppressed. This is why we go to war. No two wars are the same. In America, war gave us our very country, protected our country, reunited our country, prevented genocides and protected borders, here and abroad. But wars need people. People willing to risk life and limb to guarantee our way of life. Some come back whole, some do not. Some don't come back at all. Veterans Memorial Park and Education Center is dedicated to these people, their sacrifices, their lives. It doesn't celebrate war, but it remembers, by honoring the service of our area's veterans, past and present. The Memorial Park had its beginnings in its eventual home, Matamoras Airport Park.
The moving wall was here in 1998, and it was a huge success. It was such a huge success that when they were taking it down, it was Dick Gassman and George Stavridis and Gene Goldner. They were standing watching the dismantling and lamenting the fact that there's nothing there that would show that the moving wall had ever visited. So one thing led to another, and the VVA, the Vietnam vets, decided to put a monument down in this spot or someplace down there to depict the fact that the moving wall had been here. So that was actually the original beginning, and then I think it was the year 2000 that they actually started excavating the land.
With help from the Wade Fund, funding, planning, and building began. Dick Gassman gathered those interested, including vets, community leaders, and funeral directors who knew intimately that many World War II vets were passing on.
The intent is to have a place where not only can we honor the people that have sacrificed for our country, but ultimately be a place to educate children as to the conflicts and the wars and the events that our country's been involved with. It's about freedom.
Each monument details everything about that war or that event. And now if you have a smartphone, you can go and hook up, and that'll tell you everything that's on that monument. And we just put in the last big one, World War I, and that's going to be dedicated in 11/11.
A new monument has been added each of the past 11 years. The Memorial Park Committee plans more monuments. Veterans Memorial Park and Education Center was developed in part for those who returned from war, to honor their service and give them a place to gather and reflect. No stories are the same because no war or post-war is the same.
We're fighting to keep our country free and try to end the war.
I was in World War II. I was in the Army Air Corps. I was a medic. I went to medical school in the service, and I was for 3 years.
World War II. I went in 1943, and I got out in 1946. After all, the excitement was all over. Well, we were fighting for the freedom of people who were being terribly abused over there by this crazy guy Hitler, and I guess it was in July that I finally wound up in an outfit, the 23rd Armored Engineers with the 3rd Armored Division. And I was with them, I guess, about 6 weeks before I was hit. And of course, then the war was over for me because I lost my leg there.
I was in World War II. We were fighting for our freedom. Went to single school. From single school, they sent me to Africa. I was in North Africa. We hit a mine, and that's where we got sunk. The Navy, I thought they were very fair. Your officers were gentlemen. They were good people. I was so fortunate. I had good officers. The Navy, if you get good officers, you got it made.
After the Second World War, the country boomed. Everybody working, money was no object. Boom, everybody moved to Pike County. We had the GI Bill of Rights. You got a college education, you know what I mean? A guy went to college. You wanted to buy a home in 1946. You walked in the middle for the bank and GI Bill of Rights, and to sign the papers, you owned the house.
For the Vietnam War. I ended up in service because the draft program was working at that time. You had a draft number. The draft number told you when you were going to be roughly pulled from your county or state and when you were going to be put into action. I finished training and got done with that, and I thought maybe I might get a chance to come home, but no, they loaded me on a plane and sent me right over to Vietnam. So I had a month of training, and then I went to Vietnam. And of course, 19 years old, landing, doing all this, scared to death. You see all the guys who've been there, and you've got all this new clothes and you're shiny, you know, and you see these guys who've been through hell. Different. Who? I think the war experience was different. There were no boundaries. You never knew a safe zone from like I guess Iran and Iraq are. There is no safe zone to say you're safe or protected. There are really no imaginary front lines, but they don't exist. You don't know who's friend or foe. So I think that not knowing who to trust, who not to trust, and realizing that a lot of the South Vietnamese were really, really good people. They were being conflicted by the North communist way and the American way, and they were kind of in the middle. So it was, one hand you wanted to defend them, and the other hand you were scared because you didn't know who they really were. Very seldom you had electric. Very seldom you had clean water. And clean clothes were hard to get. So when the monsoons came, you grabbed a bar of soap, ran outside butt naked, and appreciated a fresh rain. That was the cleanest water you had all the time you were in Vietnam, was the rain falling out of the sky. You'd see all these guys run outside taking showers in the rain. So even the monsoon rain had some benefit. We were heavy artillery supporting the 101st Airborne. We had a job to do. We tried to do it very well, and I think we did. As forward observers trying to protect the 101st Airborne, bringing in our rounds of destruction to whatever they wanted to destroy. The hardest part was just being on call 24 hours a day, doing what you had to do. But you didn't have time to think about it. Only when you came home, if you were lucky, then you began to realize what it was and how it changed you. Then I left the Army and came home to work and had some issues. I went into the county and said I had a problem with my ears because I had just set off a couple million tons of explosives over the years. And they said, we have nothing for you. We have no money for you. We have nothing we can do for you. Go home.
No two wars are the same. No two war experiences are the same. No two eras are the same. No two homecomings are the same. That's why there is Veterans Memorial Park and Education Center, to provide an ongoing welcome homecoming for all veterans of war, to remember them, honor them, thank them.
We wouldn't have a beautiful country like we got now. And an awful lot of American soldiers died, and all the branches of the service. That's war.
People wouldn't have today at all if through life sacrifices weren't made to bring us to where we are. Vietnam War was a tough thing. I made it through that. Saw some names I knew, but not mine. So sometimes makes you feel good to be part of the remembering. Sometimes it hurts.
When you see the soldiers that come there, the feeling that they have, and the way that they sit in reverence, it makes all the work we've done worthwhile. And so if we can get young people that hopefully never have to go to war to have the same appreciation, it'll be a cool place.